Okay guys, here we are, October 2025, 199,999 miles. So we're about to hit 200,000 on a 2015 Chevrolet Sonic. I've done a 100,000 mile update. I've done a 150,000 mile update. And now it's time for the 200,000 mile update. And I think by most accounts, this car is supposed to last about 200,000 miles. This car is supposed to be done for, heading to the junkyard. This car is supposed to be finished. What's going on here? But we're here at 200,000 miles. And yeah, the last 50,000 miles have not been perfect. We've had some repairs, but there we go, 200,000. So let's talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've done it. 200,101 miles. That code 52 will pop up every 100,000 as a reminder to change the timing belt. Already changed, time to change the timing belt again. We press this button to clear it. And yeah, 200,000 miles, actually a little over now. Been driving a lot even since then, already 100 more miles on here. And again, what a car. We're going to talk about the last last 50,000 miles. But it starts right up, no problem at all. Code 52 will clear it. No check engine light, no nothing. Runs like a freaking champion. So let's turn it off and let's talk about the last 50,000 miles from 150 to 200. I've done updates every 50,000 miles. They're on this channel. We did one at 100,000. We did one at 150,000 and talked about how great the car is. It doesn't break down, always starts, always gets me to where I'm going, doesn't leave me on the side of the road. Of course, there's issues from time to time, and I talk about those, and I'm going to talk about those again, but for the most part, it has been unbelievable, especially when you Google or ask AI or whatever, how long does a Chevy Sonic last? And this is a Chevy Sonic 2015 Chevy Sonic LT. They're going to tell you 130 to 150,000. With good maintenance, you might get to 200,000. Well, here I am at 200,000, and I'm rolling, okay? I'm driving across the country. I'm going wherever I want, no problem, okay? California to Texas, whatever. We're good. So it has been great. But I will say the last 50,000 miles have had some issues. There's been some issues, for sure. When you get to 200,000, your car's going to have occasional problems, but if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you work on your own car, it's not so bad. And I'll tell you this, I still haven't had to take this car to a mechanic. I haven't had a problem so bad I couldn't fix it myself, and I'm not a professional mechanic by any means. So there has not been a problem that I couldn't take care of myself, but there have been some interesting situations. I've run into some struggles and some problems that I'll talk about that you might run into if you have a Chevrolet Sonic. And first of all, at 150,000, I made that last video, and we just kept rolling all the way up to 156,810, and I was changing my oil, and this could be a fault of my own. I don't know what happened. I do not use power tools to tighten up the oil plug and the drain plug. Please don't do that because you could strip it, but somehow I stripped it. I don't know what happened, but I stripped it. And so I had to buy a new type of drain plug and create a new, basically drill in a little bit of a bigger drain plug. And I fixed the issue because it was just leaking. I could not, it was one of those things where you would try to use your ratchet to put on the drain plug, but it would just keep spinning and spinning. It would not tighten. It wouldn't tighten. It would just keep spinning and spinning and spinning, and it would leak oil. So had to fix that. Not sure what happened there, how that happened, but we'll say that's my fault. Maybe just so many oil changes over the years, so many times putting in and out, maybe it just stripped it. So I don't know what happened. Anyway, everything was good there. 166,000 here. I'm reading all my maintenance here. 166,000 says change ignition coil and spark plugs. That was probably just a maintenance thing right here. And sometimes in this vehicle, when I change out the spark plugs, you have to pull out that ignition coil. Sometimes I just switch that out as well. So I think I did on that day. I don't think there was a code, or otherwise I would have written that. So just maintenance. 170,000, change pads and rotors. I did have to change my pads and rotors at 170,000. That's quite a long time before I had to do it, but I could hear the squealer, so it was time to do that. So I changed the pads and the rotors. 176,000. That was the first code. So I got 26,000 miles in from 150 to 176,000 miles before my first actual code check engine light, and it was a purge valve situation, which I've had before. And it was actually, it didn't say purge valve, it said there was some kind of leak from the exhaust. What's going on there? I changed the gas cap and the purge valve, and the problem was fixed. So because I had never changed the gas cap, and I did notice it was getting kind of crappy. So I decided to go ahead and give it a brand new gas cap, and I also changed out the purge valve, fixed the issue. 179,000 miles. This was a big issue I started having. I had a code, something to do with the thermostat. It wasn't the thermostat, it was the thermostat housing. So I changed out the thermostat itself, the thermostat housing, and I replaced a little coolant pipe hose that goes along, comes from the top of the thermostat housing, kind of back, and it was all brittle. I decided to just change that whole thing out. So I changed out a hose that was brittle. It was kind of, looked like it could break at any minute. Changed the thermostat housing, and I was good for about 2,000 miles. And then the radiator fan wasn't popping on. I could notice because my air conditioner wasn't working very well. It was kind of working, especially when I was driving, but when I would stand still at a stoplight, it was like, wasn't cold air. What's going on? The radiator fan wasn't kicking on. I noticed it was never kicking on. And I couldn't figure out the issue there. I tried different things, but figured out finally it was the radiator fan itself. There was a certain part of the radiator fan that was bad, and I just decided instead of replacing that little part, and I put in a new radiator fan, and it popped on like it should, and I was like, yes. But then sometimes you fix one part and it leads to more issues. Sometimes it's your own fault, sometimes it's not. But in this case, I changed the radiator fan. When changing the radiator fan, I had to drain the coolant, and when I put the coolant back in, it was not like sucking in the coolant. I was like, what's going on? It wasn't sucking in the coolant, and I could hear the water pump like bleh, 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 bleh. And again, I was like, why isn't it taking in the coolant like it should? And the heater wasn't getting hot because it wasn't taking in the coolant. I figured out the water pump wasn't that good. Maybe it was good enough to get by before, but it wasn't good enough to bring in new coolant. And anyway, I changed out the water pump as well. So I changed, that was at 181,000 miles, 181,112. I changed the radiator fan and the water pump. And then I was thinking I'm good to go. I'm driving, heat's working now. It's taking in it's taking in the coolant. The radiator fan's working. Then I noticed a massive coolant leak. What the heck? What happened was when I put in the fan, the radiator fan, I accidentally punctured the radiator itself. It is a tough job. The radiator fan was a pain in the ass. I don't think I even made a video because I couldn't film it. I just had to put my full focus on it. It was very hard to get out and hard to put in. But like most jobs, when you've done it once, the second time is way easier, and the third time it's even more easier. But that first time dealing with the radiator fan, absolute pain in the ass. And then I noticed that I punctured the radiator. So this was the first time I ever had to have the car towed. I probably could have made it. I would drive a little bit, put more coolant, but the leak was so bad and it was overheating. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to take any chances. Let's just tow it home and I'll deal with it. So I had it towed back home, changed the radiator itself. Now I changed the radiator, put back in the new radiator fan that I'd already changed out, and the coolant leak was taken care of. So this was a pain in the ass. A lot of it my own fault. Essentially, the radiator fan was bad, and I guess the water pump was also bad. So that wasn't me. The water pump was bad. It needed changing, which I've changed it before. But the radiator was okay until I punctured it like a dumbass. That was my fault. So at that point, 181,000, we're back on the road, we're good. But then at 184,215, I was leaving a gas station and I couldn't turn the vehicle. I couldn't control the car. I could drive perfectly straight and that was it. What's happening? I looked underneath and the passenger control arm was broken. It was straight up broken. I don't know how long it's been like that. It was probably bending, and at some point it just broke. I don't even remember hitting anything or anything that caused the final break, but because I drove into a gas station and I was trying to leave, and then I just noticed I couldn't control the vehicle. Passenger control arm was broken, and I had to have it towed again. So 2 times having to have the car towed here in the last 50,000 miles. And I changed the passenger control arm, the outer tie rod, and the sway bar. the sway bar was also kind of jacked up. So this was a pretty big job, pretty tough job. And I was originally going to do it on both sides. It was such a pain in the ass. I just did it on one side. I said, I'll do it on the other side later and maybe make a video on it. Still haven't gotten to that. They suggest you should do both sides. But anyway, the passenger control arm broke. I fixed it. Back on the road. Beautiful. 187,000 miles. I got a code P0340, P0341. What is this? This has to do with the crankshaft and camshaft position sensors. Now this code was popping up and I changed what I thought was the camshaft position sensor. I thought I just needed that one. There's two. There's a camshaft position sensor and a crankshaft position sensor. They look identical. I don't know. I guess they're not, because you can buy either or. You got to make sure you buy the right one. They look identical. And here I actually have one. This is one of the old ones here. This is what it looks like. It's super easy to fix. It's not that hard to change out. These are pretty easy. One little bolt you take out, you pop it in. That's it. But I changed out one of them, the camshaft position sensor. The car was running better because it was running kind of rough when this code popped up. It was running rough, the code popped up, changed out this one. It seemed to fix it, but the code wouldn't go away. And if I would clear it, it would come back. And I couldn't really figure out what was going on, but I decided to go and change the crankshaft position sensor as well. I changed them both at the same time. So I decided to go back. I got one from AutoZone. I changed them both, got both from AutoZone, and I changed them both, and then the code was gone, and we were good. So it was really interesting. So if you have a camshaft position sensor problem or a crankshaft position sensor problem, you have to change them both. Anyway, the problem was solved. So this little thing went bad, and I changed them both, and we're good to go there. Just a few miles later, yeah, we're having some issues here. 187,771 miles. Alternator bearing, I could hear it. This happens. This happened before. I made a video on it. It made this ugly noise, and it was happening again. And I changed the alternator. I replaced the alternator, and I also changed the serpentine belt tensioner. While I was there, I check out all the bearings, and the serpentine belt tensioner was kind of rough. And I changed it out as well. And it wasn't feeling tight also. It wasn't, the tension wasn't quite right with the belt. And so I decided to change that as well. And then we were beautiful. Everything sounded great. A little bit later, I decided to change the valve cover gasket because I noticed oil in the spark plugs. I mean, we're getting at 200,000 miles, so little issues like this are going to happen. So I just saw there's oil in the spark plugs. I checked the valve cover gasket. It was in kind of poor condition. Changed the valve cover gasket. And then finally, 188,000 miles, not much longer than that. This is a while ago still, about 12,000 miles back. I had to change the compressor. The compressor went bad on my air conditioner, and I had to change the compressor and recharge the air conditioner. Happens, right? So crazy, man. So yeah, then the last 12,000, nothing. Except one thing I'll tell you in a second. But nothing that has required me to spend any money or anything like that. Everything has been great for the last 12,000 miles with one exception. And this is a freak thing. I don't even know if I need to worry. Let me know. But I'm driving through Albuquerque, New Mexico, and this is not like a month and a half ago. I'm driving through Albuquerque, and my car failed. My car suddenly, I can't turn. I can barely turn to the wheel, and check engine light comes on. All these lights come on. ABS system, right? All these lights come on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a major issue right here. I could barely control the vehicle. I could barely get off the freeway and get into a gas station at Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I'm at the gas station. All these lights are coming on. Check engine light. I'm like, okay, let's deal with this issue. Let's see what's happening here. This seems major. And I turn off the vehicle, and then I want to, get out my check engine light code checker and everything so I can start investigating. But it didn't even work. Like I put it in, and it was like, cannot communicate. I couldn't even communicate with the vehicle. Then I tried to start it, and it wouldn't start. I got nothing, no crank, no nothing. I didn't really know what to do. I mean, I was trying to do some research, figured out they were talking about maybe a bad sensor. Had no clue how to proceed. I couldn't pull the codes. And I was just completely at a loss of really, what to do there in that situation. It was getting dark. It was late. It was not late. It was getting late. It was about to turn dark probably in a matter of 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, I don't really have time to work on this. I can't be here at the gas station. So I'm thinking, I'm going to get a hotel here and we'll deal with this tomorrow. You know, this is we may have to take this to a shop, or we'll try to work on it in the daylight, just see what I can do. Maybe I work at it at the hotel, get it towed somewhere. I don't know, but I actually called the tow truck. We were going to tow the baby. And but in the meantime, I'm still trying things. I disconnect the battery, wait a while, reconnect it. Still no start, no nothing. I could know no light from this thing at all. And then I was checking the fuses, doing basic stuff here. Fuses seem to be good, but I did take them out. I was taking out some of the fuses. Some of them you can check while they're in, but some of them I was taking out, checking them out, swapping them out, trying different things, messing with the fuse box. Come back, I'm like, well, the fuses seem like they're good. I start the car, boom, whoa! I was almost out of gas, so I put some gas in, and then I was gonna just move it somewhere else, but I didn't even consider the fact that maybe it won't even start at all, which is where we're at. But that ABS light was on, check engine light was on. Whoa! It started right up, and I was able to check the codes, and I can show you the codes here because I recorded it. All these codes, I'm like, okay, let me write these codes down because I don't know if these are legit now or if this was a freak thing. I drive around Albuquerque for a while. The check engine light actually goes off. The check engine light goes away. I check the code. The codes are gone. So I'm not really sure how I fixed it. If I fixed it, it could have been that one of the fuses was jolted loose somehow, and maybe I fixed it when I put it back in somehow, because maybe I swapped a couple that fixed itself, but everything else was good too. I checked every fuse. They were all good. So I don't know what happened. I really don't know. It was a little hazy there, but whatever that issue was, I drove from Albuquerque, 2,000 miles away from Albuquerque, and everything is still golden. So I'm calling that a freak thing, and hopefully that never happens again, but it hasn't happened since, and we're just going to pretend that didn't happen. Other than that, the car has been fantastic, though. We're at 200,000 miles, and still the transmission seems to be working perfectly. Brakes are perfect. I do change the fluid from time, whenever the schedule says to do so, and just keep on maintenance, keep on the oil changes. I put in, the best oil I can find, good synthetic, whatever, and keeping this thing going. And hasn't been any other issues, hasn't been any parts falling off, little minor things. That it's been holding together really nicely, and I'm driving this thing like crazy. So I don't know what to tell you. I mean, obviously at this point in time, Chevy Sonics, there's no more new Chevy Sonics. Chevy Sonics are used cars, but if you can find a low mileage Chevy Sonic 2017, 18, 19, 20, this car's amazing. This car is fantastic. It really is. And even though I listed all that stuff, you're like, what are you talking about? You had all that stuff. But if you're a do-it-yourselfer, these things are not that expensive so far. I mean, they can be somewhat expensive, in the hundreds of dollars, but we're not talking. None of these things were thousands of dollars. Compressor, $300, recharge the AC. Yeah, it's some of this stuff costs some money, and I think this is why a lot of people who don't work on their own car, by the time it gets to 200,000, they're like, okay, I can't afford this, and it's costing thousands of dollars. Every time I turn around, there's an issue. Imagine how much money some of this stuff would cost if I was taking it to a mechanic with the thermostat housing, the radiator fan, the water pump. They probably wouldn't have broken the radiator, the passenger control arm, the outer tie rod, the sway bar, the crankshaft, camshaft position sensor, which was cost me $20, changed it out. Actually cost me $40. I bought 2 of them. But I mean, what if I took it to a mechanic? They're going to charge you $300, $400, $400, $500. So that's one of the things about it. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, your car can last you a lot longer because it's not going to cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to keep it going. And right now, there's no check engine light. It's running beautifully. But we'll see in the next 50,000, because we're going to have another update if we get there. 250,000 miles. Do you think we can get there? Will we be here talking about it in a couple years or whatever? Hopefully so, but I got to change that. I got to change that freaking timing belt, even though it's probably okay. It's probably okay for another 20, 30,000 miles, but better safe than sorry. That thing breaks, could be game over. You guys have a great day. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do you have a Chevy Sonic, and how's it treated you? Hope it's treated you as well as this one's treated me. Despite all those problems in the last 50,000, I think it's doing pretty damn good for a car at 200,000 miles. You guys have a great day. hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and we're gonna talk to y'all, get that coat out of here, in the next video.